The following is brought to you by Bleacher Report. If you guys want to check out my live post-game reaction show, make sure to have the Bleacher Report app downloaded and ready to fire up right after the game. You'll find me in the Chargers section. Bolt up. Yo to Bolt fam. It's the director. What can I say, dude? That is maybe one of the worst games that I have covered since that epic loss to the Raiders in 2022. I don't know, man. I'm petrified of getting on here after a loss like this, because, like, what can you say to a fan base that just watched such an epic collapse from a team that walked in at 7-3? How did we get to 7-3 looking in any way, shape, or form like what we did today? Absolutely dreadful. All I can say is I'm sorry, Chargers fans, that you had to be put through that. That sucks. Against the Jags, too, man. Of all the freaking teams, man, the Jaguars, come on. Wait a long time thinking about that game, the epic collapse in the postseason, building up to it, anticipating it, hoping for a better result, and within the first few minutes, it was pretty obvious that it wasn't going to turn out the way we'd hoped. And man, what a collapse it was. Well, let's start off a little bit by, I'm actually going to say this first. I do apologize to anyone out there wondering what's going on with the director, this and that. I'll say this right now. I am very under the weather. I don't know if you guys could tell with my last short, but holy crap, I am fighting an epic flu or cold or whatever. Comes with all of the fun of something like that, so I may be a little off my game today, but we're here. We're not missing it. I'm going to say that game in particular sucked super hard, being that sick and sitting through the whole thing, just suffering an extra layer of discomfort because of the game. Man, I'd be 2 times as sick for a lesser loss than that. I would take that trade. Like, let's lose the game, but let's not become the team that just folds under the pressure of the Jags every time we meet up. Why'd it have to be the Jags? This team has a lot of work to do, man. We're going to talk about in just a minute how I think the Chargers, and this sucks to say even for me right now because, you know, as a fan, you just want to sit in your frustration and your grief and your anger and process that for a second, but I'm here to tell you, like, it's my job to tell you guys and to bring everybody back down to earth a little bit that the Chargers at 7-4 going into the bye are still a team to be considered as serious playoff contenders. Okay, I know nobody wants to hear that right now, but it's my job to point that out, and we're going to elaborate on that a little later in the show. But for now, we do have to focus in on what was the worst loss that I've covered in a long time, the most humiliating game that I've had to cover in a long time, and what that means for this Jim Harbaugh 7-4 Chargers unit that really did not show up to play today. Starting off on offense, this is the worst Justin Herbert game I've covered in forever, maybe ever. Less than 100 yards, 81 yards off of 10 attempts, 10 completions, just the interception and 2 sacks. The 2 sacks is mind-blowing. You would have thought that it was 68 sacks today from the way things were going. This game was a reflection of just how bad the Chargers' offensive line problem has gotten. There are problems on the offensive line that we knew about going into the offseason that didn't get addressed. We are paying for it now. There are problems that got worse with every injury that we suffered. Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt, etc. And the running backs, which we'll get to in a second too. We are paying for that. And there's one moment in this game that I'm going to remember. This game as a whole, I want to put in the back of my mind, lock it up and throw away the key, try and forget this whole experience. It was a miserable game, dude. Miserable experience. But there is one play that is going to remain at the front of my mind when I think about this matchup. When I think about this week in the NFL season, this performance. You guys, can you guess what that play is? It's not a positive play. It's a negative play. You guys think of what that play was? It was the play where Justin Herbert got sacked into the ground like we were watching WWE SmackDown instead of NFL football. Ultimately, it would be called for roughing the passer, rightfully so. You can't do that, especially to a quarterback. But the reason I'm not going to forget that play is because it's going to serve as a reminder as to how bad this offensive line is at the end of the season and how desperate we are to bring in help for Justin Herbert from free agency and the draft, trades, and all that kind of stuff. When we're trying to justify, director, why are we spending a first-round pick on a guard of all positions when we want this and there's this fun player and this fun skill position guy? I want you to remember that play, dude. I want you to remember Justin Herbert getting body slammed into the ground. And what the game was surrounded from that play too, on how truly awful the blocking was this week. That play is hopefully going to help the Chargers have the courage and guts and foresight and focus to get that offensive line at least to around average next year. I don't think we're asking for much as Chargers fans. We just don't want to be number 32 out of 32 offensive lines in football. And to be quite frank with you guys, I wouldn't be shocked if we went and looked at the grades, if we went and looked at each individual player, and it all averaged out to the Chargers not just being the worst offensive line in football, but let's say this, right? There's the second worst, number 31 out of 32. Gap, and then Chargers. It's not that just we're the worst. It's we are playing at a subpar college level at this point. You could throw our offensive line versus a college team, and we might even get beat there. It's bad. It is so bad. I had hope for Trevor Penning this week, and to be fair, I saw a few plays where I was like, yeah, all right. We may have something here. And then the penalties started, and you're like, oh, that's right. Trevor Penning is a penalty nightmare. He later got blown up a couple of times, too, and I think that Gillis came in. It was just this whole thing. Absolutely dreadful. And we're here because of the lack of action we had in the offseason, man. Everybody was pulling for center in the last year's draft. There were so many good ones. Didn't happen. Everyone was pulling for offensive line this year. Didn't happen. We got Taylor Branson or whatever. He got cut. He was so bad. And it really rattles my brain, dude. This is a Jim Harbaugh team where the offensive lineman is described as the tip of the spear for the offense. This is where things happen. This is where games are won. Trenches, trenches, trenches. Our trenches suck. We will not win any football games with the way the offensive line looks like right now. Defensive line, you're getting yours in just a second, too. Chargers have no run game. Imani Vidal would get hurt early. Justin Herbert was doing everything he could to extend plays. He ran for the game-leading 21 yards on the Chargers. What does that put us at? Let's see, 34, 42 yards. 42 yards for the Chargers. That's just the positive. Or sorry, 43 yards. 42, yeah, with the negative. 42 yards. Dreadful. I didn't expect a big run game. Matter of fact, I was taking the lower on Kamani Vidal everywhere. Just because I kind of knew the Jags defense was pretty good versus the run. But holy crap. Even that's underwhelming. Of course, Vidal would get hurt. There was some complications there. Just no precautions. Chargers fans were kind of screaming for a trade or a pickup at backup running back because, given our track record this season, two of the healthiest running backs in the entirety of the NFL going down on the Chargers. What are the odds that Kamani Vidal also goes down? Probably pretty high, and he did, and we had no backup plan. Justin Herbert had no help out there. Now, usually I like to start with the bad news and just go straight into the good news afterwards, hopefully leave you with a feel-good message. I'm going to interweave it a little bit this week because this is the first maybe positive thing I want to mention about the Chargers' future is the run game. Maybe the biggest thing that can help this team right now, and I said this about Joe Alt earlier, and then he ended up getting hurt again, so knock on wood, that doesn't happen again. But the biggest thing that can help this Chargers team right now, bigger than almost anything, is the return of Omarion Hampton. And this is because the NFL has a few exceptional running backs that can succeed despite little to no help from the offensive line. That is the situation that we're in right now in terms of our run game. Omarion Hampton cannot succeed with the help of the offensive line. He must succeed despite the offensive line. And luckily enough for us, he is the type of running back that can do that. Some people don't believe me. All I'm going to say is look at where he was before he went down, right? Look at how much he was helping the offense. Look at what Saquon Barkley did in his rookie year with the Giants and their historically bad offensive line. You can still produce. And the reason that is so important right now is not because, we want this awesome running back to go out there and, let's say, put on a more entertaining show than we saw today, but because it relieves pressure off of Justin Herbert. Ability to run the football helps Justin Herbert out tremendously. Sets up the play action, gets things moving on offense a lot easier than what we saw today. Kamani Vidal versus a half-decent run defense cannot do that with the offensive line he has in front of him. To Vidal's defense, if we had a around average offensive line, even a little below average offensive line, I think he could certainly handle it. He's still a very good running back. But his best games have come versus particularly bad run defenses. Other than, was it the Colts? I don't remember. There was one opponent where I was like, oh, okay, it was the Steelers. I was like, oh, okay, he did good despite that. But you need a particularly good running back to overcome what we're seeing from the offensive line recently. Bad, dude. It's so bad. And that's why one of my few hopes going into week, what would it be, 13 at that point versus the Raiders after the bye week. One of my few hopes that the season can come back to us and get back on track offensively is because of Omarion Hampton's individual skill set at running back. I think he can help us bounce back a little bit. Receiving. I actually don't have too much negativity to say about the receiving today. There wasn't a lot of it, of course. You're looking at maybe the worst Justin Herbert performance ever. But what really sucks is that the receivers are very good. Raise your hand if... Excuse me, guys. So sorry. Raise your hand if you guys recognize this meme. And this is something that gets brought up a lot during draft season, right? In supporting the idea of getting an offensive lineman, especially in the first round, right? The meme is your quarterback throwing and the catch being made because he had some help at offensive line, right? That's as a result of, let's say, the Chargers drafting Joe Alt. And the receiver underneath it says nobody. Well, he's going to have an opportunity to catch because Justin Herbert has an opportunity to throw. Then underneath it, it shows, what if you draft a wide receiver like Malik Neighbors? It shows Malik Neighbors open, but Justin Herbert taking a sack. That could not be more true. That meme lives on today. Unfortunately, both of those players would go down to injury. No Joe Alt, no Malik Neighbors. But what I witnessed today was that meme come to life. Justin Herbert was on his back constantly. Justin Herbert was having to throw under pressure constantly. Justin Herbert had half a second to a second to throw constantly. I don't know what it's going to average out to afterwards, like when the numbers and everything come out. I wouldn't be shocked if it were in and around the realm of like a second and a half to throw the football. It was wildly bad this week. Got to do something about that offensive line, dude. The receivers. I think the receivers did good. They just didn't get a lot of opportunity. All right, defense, now it's your turn. Actually, you know what? Real quick, special teams. Something's happened. I don't know. Darius Davis, decent return rate, I guess, but special teams, they're bouncing back a little bit, but they've been a little underwhelming the last few weeks. They've done good a couple of times this week, so we'll say they're okay. Defense is where I kind of want to shift my attention to a little bit. Now, this defense under Jesse Minter has been exposed the way we saw today one other time I can recall, and that was versus the Bucs last season. Liam Cohen. He's kind of got Jesse Minter's number here, dude. It's bad. And the reason I think that's the case is because of how many times I saw the same things working over and over and over again for the Jaguars that for whatever reason we just could not figure out. Throws over the middle, seams, slants, curls. Nothing seemed to be able to stop it. The Chargers would not budge out of zone coverage. I think Liam Cohen knew that would be the case. And it seems like every single time Trevor Lawrence threw the football, it was for 10 yards. What did he end up with, by the way, as we're covering the defense? 153 yards. Touchdown, interception. Okay. Run defense wasn't any better. Run defense... I shouldn't have gone. Let me go back real quick. Run defense felt like every single time the Jaguars would run this same concept of a fake pitch that was cut back up the middle, a counter, right? So it would draw the linebackers off the wrong side, and then there comes the running back up the middle. It worked every single time. Linebackers were never in position. Bayshaw Tootin for the most part, who I think was, definitely the back that I was more worried about this week. Seemed to just do whatever he want every single time. So an average of almost 5 yards a carry for Tootin. Travis Etienne also looking really good. 2 touchdowns. Total of 4 touchdowns on the ground this week is absurd. Even their backup here in Allen, 4.5 a carry. The run defense is going to cost us big. If we make it to the postseason, this is how you beat the Chargers. 4.5 to 5 a carry. And news flash, you're going to see some pretty good running backs once you get even close to the offseason. At this point, you got to ask yourself, can the Chargers make it? Hope so. Defense was bad. The tackling was bad. The effort was bad. No giddy up, no energy, no urgency. The pressure was really bad. Did we log a sack? I don't think we did. This is a Jags team that should have been sacked 3 times, dude. Nothing. Couple of instances where I was like, here we go. We got some momentum. Secondary, for the most part. Dante Jackson, he logged the interception. But outside of that, man, very lackluster defense, very lackluster offense. No blocking against the freaking Jags, dude. I don't know. Tough loss this week. One that makes me question the future of the team a little bit, but I'm going to close the video off with, I told you guys there was 2 aspects of the future that give me a little bit of hope. The first one was Omarion Hampton's return. The second one is the bye week. The placement thereof. Now, on one hand, I hate that we have to sit with this loss for 2 weeks. That sucks. Bad taste in your mouth, 2 weeks. Nobody wants that. On the bright side, it's the bye week. Chance for players to get healthy, figure out what the heck happened, and hopefully come back with a bit of a different approach versus the Raiders in Week 13. In particular, the offensive line. Not too late to go out there and find free agents. Not too late to go out there and try and figure out any form of protection for Justin Herbert. We've seen it work last week versus the Steelers, versus TJ Watt of all players. We've seen it work. How can we kind of get back to that? Because that's kind of where the whole season and its success rides on for me, is can the Chargers figure out the offensive line problems even temporarily? I think the answer to that is maybe. I think there's a chance that they can, but there's a lot riding on it. Hopefully the Chargers do figure it out. Well, guys, thank you for joining me. This has been the Director. Despite the tough loss, despite, I know, the strong emotions that are going to follow this game, trust me, I'm feeling them right now, even through the flu. This is my flu game, too. But hopefully the Chargers do find a way to bounce back after this week, and the bye week can really, really help shape things up if they approach it the right way. Okay, so again, thank you so much. We'll catch you guys after the bye week. I'll still be here on Bleacher doing shorts every day, Monday through Thursday. But till then, we'll see you guys. And hopefully the Chargers have some good news to bring us in the next coming days, because I know us as a fan base, we're going to need it. Big love to everybody. Bolt up, Bolt fam. Be mad today, bolt up tomorrow. Heck, I'm going to say be mad for a few days. You earned it.